All right, today I am very excited because we are going to be talking all about blue-brown duochromes. I've mentioned a lot of these shades in other videos, and this has been recently especially a type of shift that I've just been super into. It's a timeless classic, it's been a favorite of so many people for so long, and it's going to continue to be. And by the way, I talked about green-brown duochromes last week. I'll go ahead and link that in the cards. I've tried a bunch of options, both in singles and in palettes. And in case you're curious, I never had the chance to try the blue-brown pigment from MAC. I feel like if you're searching for a dupe or the next best thing, I've got lots of great options. I'm going to swatch them, try them all on, and talk about the formulas. I do have a discount affiliate code with the indie brand, so I'm going to pop that up on the screen now. And it'll be in the description box along with all of the linked products. Thank you so much if you use my links. It really helps my channel. Let's go ahead and get into it. All right, starting off with an old classic. This is Solstice from Urban Decay. I feel like every time I talk about or mention a blue-brown duochrome and don't include the shade, someone brings it up because it really is a classic. It is a moondust shadow, and the moondust shadows in general, I would say, have a different formula depending on the shade. This shade is definitely not the most intense or pigmented of the shades that I'm going to show. You can definitely build it up a little bit if you want it to be more opaque, or you can wear it as a sheer wash of sparkle. I've heard a bunch of people tell me they like to use this as a base for other shadows as well. I did want to mention that, and you can get moondust shadows on a pretty good discount during like holiday sales, Ultra 21 Days of Beauty sometimes, but of course at $25 a piece, they are pricey. Next shade we have is Blushing Lizard from Half Magic, and this is, I want to say, their most popular duochrome eyeshadow. You definitely get less product than is in the Urban Decay. Each pan costs $15. I think at one point they were $14 and the price recently just went up a little bit. I do think that the particle size of this one compared to the Urban Decay is a little bit larger, so you can get a little bit more of that sparkle effect. It looks more intense on the lids. It does have a little bit of an emollient texture in the pan, like some of their older original duochrome eyeshadows do. It is something I like to mention because some people do experience creasing with softer, more emollient shadows. But for a mainstream brand, I think it's beautiful and the price is pretty fair. All right, next we have one of my favorites from a mainstream brand, and that is Fembot from REM Beauty. And this is actually in an eyeshadow quad that retails for $30. It was as a single shadow last year, and that single retailed for $22. So a quad for $30 I think is a really nice price. The formula is exactly the same. In this Fembot quad, you actually have that beautiful blue-brown duochrome and another duochrome and a really sparkly silver and a matte shadow. What I really like about this formula is really how intense it is. I love that you get a lot of pigment on the first swipe. This is a formula that stays in place all day. It's incredibly sparkly. I'm very much here for the REM Beauty press shadow formula. I can't say the same about their liquid shadows. They just didn't work well for me. And part of me does wish that this was available as a single still, but I like that these quads are small and at a fair price. Okay, next we have a pretty new shade from ColourPop. This is the shade Bobaholic, and it is a kind of pale, ethereal blue-brown duochrome. It's not available individually, it's only in their trio called Milk Tea and Boba. All of the shades in there are pretty cool toned. The vibes of this shade are pretty similar to Rooftop Cocktails in that you get kind of like a glowy look, a kind of light ethereal sparkle. Of course, the shade is totally different, but to me it gives a similar like formula vibe. This is another shade where you can totally build it up for more opacity, or you can wear it more as a sheer wash. I also really like using this shade as a highlighter, especially on brown skin. It just kind of glows. And honestly, I feel like the price point of $7 with the Super Shock is pretty fair. They have a nice lasting power, and I shared this in my recent ColourPop Super Shock video. You can actually revive these with a couple of drops of Duraline. If yours have dried out and you still want to make use of them and kind of revive them, you can try that out. Okay, next shade we have is another formula that I have talked about several times before, and that is Beauty Creations. They have a Writing Solo Single Shadow. This is called Boots On, and I really like the single shadows from Beauty Creations. I feel like you get a great formula for the price. These retail for $6. The packaging is also really sleek. I feel like, honestly, these truly are the best formula that I've tried for the price. When it comes to this particular shade, it's not the most intense that they have, but it has a very pretty sparkle, and the formula in general is one that I think will work for a lot of different skin types. There's no emollients in the pan, the sparkle particles are fine. So I personally was really excited to see that Beauty Creations had an option for a blue-brown duochrome. Okay, next we have an option from Moira. I would say, the shades from Moira definitely rival the ones from Beauty Creations in terms of level of sparkle. Moira tends to do a lot more chrome shadows than Beauty Creations. This formula is very nice. It's another one I think will work for a lot of different skin types. I would say for the shade itself, it does have a little bit more red in the base compared to some of the other versions that I've shown. And it's got a little bit more green as well. For this shade, I actually struggled to figure out whether I wanted to include it in my blue-brown video or my green-brown video because it sort of has both. It's got a good amount of sparkle. I would say compared to the Beauty Creations, the sparkle particles themselves are maybe slightly larger. But again, I think this formula will be very approachable to a wide variety of skin types. Okay, next we have a shade that actually was recommended to me last year when I was doing some testing of different blue-brown duochromes. This is Disco Queen, and it's a single shadow from the Ulta Beauty brand. This is actually the first time that I've tried Ulta Beauty brand eyeshadows. I think this shade has a beautiful glow, but this definitely is not one of the more intense versions of this type of shade that I've tried. Like the Moira, it has a little bit of red in its base. If you've tried other shades from Ulta Beauty brand that you really enjoy, let us know in the comments because I am keen to try them in the future. It's pretty, it's just not my favorite version of the shade, but I think it depends what you're going for. If you want something that has more of a sheen and maybe isn't as sparkly, then this could be a good option. All right, the next shade that I'm talking about is from the Sephora brand, and this is actually one of their little eyeshadow palette trios. These are only $10, which I think is a pretty great price. But I gotta say, the formula inside really did impress me. Like, even on the first swipe, you get a lot of intensity from this blue-brown duochrome. It's very sparkly, and I feel like if you are after this palette for that shade alone, it is not an unreasonable price point really at all. I do feel like both Ulta brand and Sephora brand have some steals, some kind of hidden gems. And these little palettes from Sephora brand definitely fall under that category. Okay, next we have one of my favorite versions of this kind of eyeshadow, and this is from Terra Moons. This is the shade Auriga Frostlight. As many of you know, Terra Moons has a lot of specialty shades with special pigments, especially when they do multi-chrome eyeshadows. But they also do some duochrome eyeshadows, and those duochromes usually retail for around $8, which is the case with this shade. And I think that is honestly really, really fantastic because their duochromes are very special, sparkly, shifty, and overall I would say slept on because of course they are known for their multi-chrome eyeshadows. With this shade you get a ton of sparkle and a light ethereal shift. All right, and I do have a few shades from Clionadh. These are oldies but goodies. The first is Grisaille. Grisaille is a glitter type chrome shadow. I would say that it has more of a reddish base. And of course, it has that blue shift. Now, even though mine are several years old, they still perform so incredibly well. When I swatch it and apply it, you can see just how much intensity I get. If you are looking for a high intensity version of a blue-brown duochrome that has a lot of sparkle, a lot of pigment and is slightly warm in its base, I think this is a good option. And again, Clionadh does have some more expensive shades depending on the pigments that are used, but they also have some shades like these that are under that $10 price point. And the other shade I have from Clionadh, which is another classic that came out many, many years ago, this is Abrasion. And in comparison to Grisaille, I would say that this one has a deeper base. It's a little bit cooler toned, less red leaning. You can see that it's more of a blue-purple base in comparison to Grisaille that was a bit lighter and a bit more red in its base. And if I were to pick my favorite between the two shades, I would pick Abrasion because it is a little bit cooler toned and it is a little bit deeper. From Rituel de Fille, we have one of their eye glosses, and this is the shade Cygnus. This is another formula that I've talked about many, many times on my channel. I fell in love with this formula this year. After having a somewhat polarizing experience in the past, now this has a slightly warmer base. It's a little bit more red leaning in its base, like a red brown, and it has that beautiful blue shift. And, you know, I've heard people tell me they also love this formula, but I've also had people tell me that they don't love this formula, especially because it can crease. It does crease. On me, I find the creasing to be somewhat editorial. I love how well these stay for a long period of time. If I want to pat out the creasing, I'll just do that with my finger. The other thing I want to mention, which might be obvious, but these don't fully set down, they are pricey at $39, and if you are trying the formula for the first time, I recommend only picking up one shade to see if you like it first. Alright, now I do want to mention some of my Blue Brown Duochrome eyeshadows that are in larger palettes. The first is Viseart Cyrenus. When it comes to my favorite palettes from Viseart, especially in this 12 pan format, I think this palette still reigns supreme for me. I love doing a smoky eye. I do really love cool toned eyeshadows. Viseart also runs fantastic promotions. Sometimes you can get this even for like 50% off or close to it. And this version of a Blue Brown Duochrome is beautiful. It's deep, it's very glowy, it has a beautiful sparkle to it. This is definitely a prime example of how Viseart has really stepped up their shimmer formula over the past couple of years. Okay, next palette I have is actually brand new, and it is from Unearthly. It is in collaboration with Andromeda, and they put together such a beautiful, whimsical color story. The shimmers in here are so sparkly, just as I've come to really know the Unearthly shimmers to be over the past, I would say, couple of years. Of course, I was really happy to see a shade like this included in the palette. I personally think that the shimmers in the Unearthly palettes, especially the palettes that have come out in the past, like I want to say year and a half, are very user-friendly. This version of the shade that's in the palette, I would say, is a little bit more silver leaning than some of the other versions that I've shown, but you can definitely see that blue shift as well. And in case you were curious about the palette, I just wanted to include some swatches of those other shimmers as well, because you get some beautiful kind of iridescent duochromes, and you also do get a holographic shade. Next palette I have is from Glaminatrix, and actually this is one of my favorite palettes from the brand in general. This came out last year. I want to say it came out sometime around the summertime, and what I love about it is that you get some neutral shades, but you also get some pops of color. And listen, the Blue Brown Duochrome that you get in this palette is crazy beautiful. It's so intense pigment wise. It has so much sparkle. You can see that its base is a little bit more on the red brown leaning. This is definitely one of my favorite Blue Brown Duochromes that's in a palette. And here I just wanted to show you swatches of all 6 shimmers in the palette just so that you can see how beautiful they really are. I'm not sure if this palette is currently available or if it's on pre-order, but I do believe that it will be one that's restocking in the future. The next palette we have is Moonlight Muse, and this is from Arttitude. And this is a super unique cool tone color story that came out right at the beginning of the year. And when I shared some content on this palette, including a couple of looks. A lot of you told me that you absolutely love the color story, and I can see why. It's very unique. Arttitude is definitely known for their very sparkly shimmers. Their mattes are fantastic as well though, but I can't blame people for buying the palettes even just for the shimmers because they are really, really spectacular. The blue brown duochrome in here is very light and ethereal. It's cool toned and it goes with the other shimmers in the palette very well. And again, just so you can see all of the shimmers in the palette in case you were curious about picking this up down the line or just seeing them in more detail. And I will link the video where I do some looks with the palette in the cards. Alright, and I couldn't make this video and not talk about the shade from Pat McGrath's Moonlit Seduction. This shade is absolutely iconic, and I feel like it is probably one of the first shades that people think about when they think of a blue-brown duochrome, and for good reason. I actually only got this palette this year. I got it on a super sale over Christmas, and this shade definitely, for me, lives up to the hype. Like, look how intense it is, even on the first swipe, and how it looks when it's applied on the lids. Let's talk about the formula itself. The sparkle particles in it are larger, it has a kind of reddish base, and the shade itself has a bit more texture. It's absolutely show-stopping. I would recommend using a glitter primer with it or some type of tacky primer, as I would for a lot of the other shades as well. Here's what all of the shimmers in the palette look like swatched. Now, as you know, Pat McGrath palettes are pricey. I definitely would say if you have one on your wish list, get it when it's on a super sale. I still think a lot of these palettes are fantastic, and I hope to see more fun and interesting palettes down the line from the brand soon. All right, here is what the first set of shades that I talked about look like swatched on my arm. As you can see, in this set, you have a lot of the mainstream brands and at a wide variety of price points. And here is what the second set of shades looked like swatched on my arm. It's no surprise that you have some very intense sparkly versions in the second set because it includes a lot of the shades from indie brands. But of course, I think you get some beautiful versions from both mainstream and indie. I think my top mainstream picks are the REM Beauty Fembot and Pat McGrath VR Sexes C. It's a lot harder to pick an indie favorite. I do think the sparkliest one I tried is the Terra Moon's Auriga Frostlight one. But in my opinion, you can't go wrong with any. And the shade you pick is also, completely dependent on the vibe that you're going for. Let me know what your favorites were in the comments, what type of shift you'd like to see a deep dive on in the future. And as always, I really hope you found this video helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.